All right, so I believe we are up to the 8th Mishnah in the first chapter of Pirkei Avos, and we have a new pair, a new zugot over here. Yehuda ben Tabai and Shimon ben Shetach kiblu mehem. So Yehuda ben Tabai omer al tas atzmacha ke'orchei hadayanim. Don't make yourself. I think the way Judah Golden translates this is it's almost like a mashup between the Greek, the Greek and the Hebrew. Orche is like the arch judge. Don't make yourself like the chief justice. Like the archdiocese. And when the litigants are before you beinecha kerashayim. They've got to appear in your eyes like they are both evil, equally bad. When they leave from before you, then you should view both of them as if they are meritorious, as long as they accept the judgment that you've passed upon them. So a few things to note over here. First of all, who is this Mishnah directed towards? Judges, right? Yeah, the leaders, right? Yeah, this is again, it's not a Mishnah that is like, hey, when you're judging between your 8-year-old and your 10-year-old as to who stole the cookie from the cookie jar. This is not right. It's also interesting that Avos tends to do this, and we're going to try to point it out whenever it happens. But it kind of plays with topics. We had in Mishnah Vav that you're supposed to dan everyone lekav zechus, unless you're a judge, in which case you should dan everybody like they're Rishayim until the judgment is over, right? When the Mishnah Vav, it was like, look, anytime you interact with people, you should judge them to the side of merit, but that's when you're not actually judging, right? Yeah. When you're actually judging, start off with the assumption that they're all wicked. Yehuda ben Tabai is interesting because the Karaites sort of put him up as the person who started their whole movement. Maybe I'll read to you a little bit from Daniel Lasker's book over here. This is page 18, 19, something like that. Yeah. From the Karaite perspective, Judah ben Tabai, Shimon ben Shetach's colleague, was a loyalist adhering to the one written Torah. Perhaps the Karaites made this claim because Yehuda Halevi mentions that the persecutions occurred during the time of Shimon and Judah, and then only Shimon reappears later as a champion of the oral law. In other words, there's stories. So we're going to get to Shimon ben Shetach in 30 seconds, but Shimon ben Shetach had to run away from Alexander Yanai, and so the Karaites are like, oh, you know what? Shimon ben Shetach made up Rabbinic Judaism. He ran away to Egypt or wherever he went, and that's where Rabbinic Judaism comes from. But Yehuda ben Tabai stuck around. He's our guy. He's really the Karaite Mahalach is the original. We're like the OGs. It was Shimon ben Shetach who made up all of the rabbinical stuff, but really we can trace ourselves back to Yehuda ben Tabai. Okay, I think we can move speedily along to meet Shimon ben Shetach. There's a lot of interesting stuff on Shimon ben Shetach. So that's Mishnah 9. Shimon ben Shetach Omer, have a marbe lachkar es ha'edim. Be very, they translate here, thorough. You want to check into the witnesses a lot. And again, we're still talking about judges over here. V'havazahar bidvarecha, and you judges, be careful of your words. When he says that you should be careful of your words, he's not talking to just everybody. We're still in the mode of judgment here. Be careful about what you say. Shema mitocham yilmadu l'shaker, because we don't want the witnesses that you're in the middle of interrogating to kind of figure out, well, based on his questions, I can kind of understand where he's getting at or what the other witness said, or whatever the case may be. Don't lead the witnesses is essentially what Shimon ben Shetach has to say to us. There are lots of examples in the Gemara of Shimon ben Shetach himself acting as a judge, and we're gonna posit kind of where the statement that we just got in the Mishnah, where that actually comes from. There are a bunch of interesting biographical anecdotes in the Gemara about Shimon ben Shetach. His sister was Shalom Tzion or Salome Alexandra, who was married to Alexander Yanai, and those two butted heads a lot, right? Shimon ben Shetach was called to lead the benching, and first Alexander Yanai is killing off all the rabbis, so Shimon ben Shetach runs away, and then they're having dinner, and they're like, okay, we need someone to lead the benching, and there was no one there who knew how to like read. So Yanai is like, maybe let's get a rabbi, and his wife is like, look, promise me you're not going to kill him.
Yeah.
Okay, we won't kill him. Okay, Shimon ben Shetach, you can come out of hiding. So he sits down, totally unfazed by all this. He's like, you want me to lead the benching? I didn't eat anything. So, now we have to bring him out some food. And he basically, he makes a mockery of the whole situation. Well, I'm supposed to say, Nevarech, that Hashem gave you guys to eat? Like, what about me? And
I've heard this story, of course, but why do they want a bench? Why?
Yeah, why is that it's a good question. There's another time he actually outwits Alexander Yana. There's 300, the story with the 300 Nazirim? Back in the day, if you were poor and pious, so you wanted to have a really nice meal, you would make a neder to be a Nazir, and then at the end of your Nazir's period, you have to bring a korban, and people would sponsor these Nazirim and their korbanos, but not all the time. And so there's one incident where 300 of these Nazirim came to Shimon ben Shetach, and they're like, look, we're stuck. We don't have the money to pay for our korban, and our Naziris is over. What should we do? So Shimon ben Shetach is like, look, I've got a solution. For 150 of them, he found a way to be mater neder. So he undid their neder. They don't have to bring a korban. Then he calls up his brother-in-law, Alexander Yanai, and he says, look, I've got these 300 Nazirim, and they can't bring the korbanos. If you want to sponsor half the korbanos, I'll take care of the other half. Deal, says Yanai. Here's 150 korbanos for you, and now you have to pay the other 150.
And he's like,
he's like, psych! I got you.
Care of the other
right,
exact
exactly.
words.
Yeah, the law is an exacting science. So that was how he outwits Alexander Yana. He was not a big fan. Shimon Shetach was not a big fan of the supernatural or the mystical. He's not a big fan of Choni Hamagel. After Choni performs his whole circle rain dance,
I would excommunicate.
Right.
He's the one who said that.
Yeah, he's the one who wanted to give Choni Petch, but he's like, what can I do? You're like a spoiled child who comes. He approaches his father inappropriately, but the father still does what you want. So what am I supposed to do? Another time, there's a story where Shimon Shetach kills 80 witches. Do you know this story?
Oh, something. Yeah.
So he hears about these 80 witches that are in Lud, and he wants to get rid of them. So it's a rainy day, and he gets I think it's 80 or 160 students, whatever the case may be. He gets a bunch of the Talmidim from Yeshiva, and he's like, look, take like a waterproof jug, a backpack, whatever, put a change of clothes in there, and I want you to hang out by the entrance to the cave, because witches are always in caves. So he walks into the cave, and the witches are like, "Oh, we're gonna get you!" And he's like, "No, I'm a warlock. I'm like you. I do magic stuff." And they're like, "Oh, really? Well, show me what you can do." He's like, "Look, I'll click my bell, and a bunch of guys are gonna show up." And he had made some signs with the bachrim beforehand. When you hear the bell, change your clothes and then come in. So he rings the bell. They change their clothes, and then they come in, and they're all dry, even though it was raining out there. And the witches are like, "Oh, that's amazing!" You were. And eventually, he tells the boys to pick the witches up off the ground. The witches think that there's some hanky-panky that's starting, but actually, when witches are separated from the ground, they have no way to perform their magic anymore. And so he ends up killing all 80 of them in one shot, which is a horat shot. It's an exceptional legal situation, because you're not even supposed to kill more than one person in 70 years, whatever it is. And he kills 80 of these witches to sort of stem the tide of people getting involved in this kind of stuff. The reason he makes this statement about be careful about how you judge. Actually, we'll do one more biographical. There's besides the Mishnah and the Tosefta, there is one other work that is composed by a Tana that's not part of the Gemara. It's called Megillas Tainus, and it's a listing of all the days. Even though it sounds like it should be a listing of all the days you fast, it's a list of the days you do not fast. And one of the days you don't fast is the 28th of Teves. It's like a kind of mini holiday. Why? Because that was the day where Shimon ben Shetach was able to get rid of all the tzedukim that were on the Sanhedrin, which is a crazy thing to think about in the reverse. Meaning, once upon a time, if you went to the Sanhedrin, you went to like the Agudas, like the most from highest court of the land, right. Half of them were tzedukim.
most of them were heretics.
Yeah, right. Most of them didn't believe in the oral law. So how do they paskin anything? How do they get anything done?
Or like, how do
Probably
we
not very
trust-
well.
How do we trust psak halacha that we
Look,
have?
on Yom Kippur,
Right.
most of the time, the guy doing the service
He
in the Beis
died.
Hamikdash was a Taduki.
Right. And they
It's crazy.
drag him out by his toe.
Right, and they would make him swear beforehand that he's going to do it the right way. So
And they wouldn't.
yeah, so Shimon ben Shetach shows up at the Sanhedrin and he starts like pop quiz. He starts, giving them vaher, like questioning the source for how do you know this, how do you know that. They can't answer him, and he rips them out of the Sanhedrin. He's like, okay, you lost your seat, Let's bring in a Pharisee, a rabbinic Jew to take his place. And on the 28th of Teves was when he succeeded in getting all the Tzedukim off the Sanhedrin. So that's a day that's kind of like a mini holiday.
How did he manage to do that? Did he bring like a gang with him? Like you got 30 or 40 dudes just sitting in the Lishkas Haggadah?
There's a court case, and so Tzeduki A says, okay, the law is this. Well, how do you know that from the Torah? I don't know. He uses logic to disprove it, and okay, now you see that this guy is not holding in real like Masorah, so let's get rid of him.
Uh-huh.
I assume. I can't tell you I know that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it could have just been like, all right, you're out.
Right?
You're out, Tom.
Remember, after Alexander Yanai dies, Salome Alexandra, Shalom Sion runs the country for a number of years with Shimon ben Shetach. Like that's sort of the heyday of rabbinic Judaism at the time. Is right after the death of Alexander Yanai, Shimon ben Shetach is essentially in charge, along with his sister. So if he wants to change things in Sanhedrin, that's probably a good time to do it.
Yeah.
But he's talking about being careful with how you judge. There's a story in the Gemara in Sanhedrin 6:3. This is Yerushalmi, Sanhedrin 6:3. I'm going to read it to you from Binyamin Lau's, Rabbi Benny Lau's The Sages. This is page 145. Shimon ben Shetach's hands were heated, i.e. he was quick to execute those condemned to death. A group of scoffers came and said, let us conspire against him by testifying against his son and have him executed. They testified against the son of Shimon ben Shetach, and he was tried and condemned to death. When he went forth to be executed, they said to him, they felt bad, right? The witnesses basically want to recant. They say, my lord, we lied. His father wanted to bring him back, meaning Shimon ben Shetach wanted to nullify the verdict, and his son said to the father, if you sought to bring salvation by your hand, make me into the threshold. In other words, let them trample upon me. Let it be done, because I don't want to question the din. But the point over here, and this is kind of just to go back to the twice told tales, this is basically an inversion of Shaul HaMelech not killing Yehonasan. But the idea here is that Shimon ben Shetach, when he talks about really checking into the witnesses, it's not just good advice for judges. It's something he has very firsthand, unfortunate experience with to know that. The last story I'll mention is Yerushalmi in Bava Metzia, where he buys a donkey from a guy, and he finds a gem. Right. He finds a gem or something, some precious stone that's hanging from the satchel, and his students are like, "Look, you that's it. You're set for life, right? You hit the lottery." And he says, "I bought a donkey. I didn't buy a gem. Return the gem." And actually, his words in the Gemara are, "Shimon ben Shetach is not a barbarian." It's funny to see that in the Aramaic. And yes, the response of the guy is, "Blessed be the God of Shimon ben Shetach." So I think we'll stop with Avos for now, and we'll pick up, please God, at Mishnah Yud next.